Good evening and welcome to the to the June 6, 2017 Federal Way City Council meeting. Would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you for joining us. June 6th. Every time June 6th rolls around, I think about D-Day. Today is the 73rd anniversary of D-Day, and very important to remember that a continent was beginning to be liberated at this very moment, on this very day, 73 years ago. Okay, so first we've got the Federal Way Knights of Columbus presentation to our police department. We've got Don Hall and a group to Chief Long. So thank you very much to the Knights of Columbus.
Mr. Mayor, council members, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. My name is Don Hall, and this gentleman standing next to me is Joe Penwell. We are members of the Knights of Columbus of Federal Way. The Knights of Columbus is a Catholic fraternal organization founded over 130 years ago on four principles: charity, unity, fraternity, and patriotism. We are the largest fraternal organization with 1.7 million members worldwide. We are here tonight to recognize and honor the men and women of the Federal Way Police Department for their service and dedication to our community. Many of them are veterans, some may not be, but each one of them put on the uniform every day to face dangers in order to protect the citizens of our community, thereby exemplifying our principles of charity, unity, fraternity, and patriotism. Chief, we are proud to present you and your department with this plaque of appreciation. Thank you.
Sweet. Council, let's stand up. They can have take the picture. All right, thank you very much for that thoughtful gesture. All right, now we've got a presentation from the Save Weyerhaeuser campus, and it's an update. We've got Jennifer Mortensen, Preservation Services Coordinator for the Washington Trust for Historic Preservation, and Lori Sechrist and Jean Perrietti from Save Weyerhaeuser campus. And I believe we've got a short video as well.
Yes, thank you for the introduction. My name is Jennifer Mortensen, and I'm the Preservation Services Coordinator for the Washington Trust. I just wanted to give a quick introduction to our organization and what we do, and the video that I will be playing shortly. So, the Washington Trust for Historic Preservation is the Washington statewide nonprofit group that works to save historic buildings and places that matter all throughout the state. And we are a partner group with the National Trust for Historic Preservation. Since 1992, we actually had our 25th anniversary this year. The Washington Trust has maintained what we call our most endangered places list. And although the title is a little bit of a attention grabber, the point of the list is really to draw attention to significant historic places that need extra advocacy, effort, and awareness. So, as I mentioned, this is our 25th anniversary year. This year we decided to celebrate that at our annual fundraiser, and we debuted our 2017 list of most endangered places at that fundraiser with a video presentation. We have included on our list the Weyerhaeuser campus here in Federal Way. It's a very significant place for Washington and the entire Northwest region, and arguably nationally as well for its design and integration with the landscape. So we're really excited to be involved with advocacy efforts to preserve this important historic and natural place. So I am going to go ahead and play the video that we debuted at our fundraiser, and then after that I'll just say a few concluding remarks. I do want to note that I had the distinct pleasure of interviewing on the phone George Weyerhaeuser, who was the chairman of the Weyerhaeuser Corporation, and also Peter Walker. You'll see them captioned on the video. He's was the primary landscape designer and founder of Walker Sasaki and Associates.
So the landscape was a big part of the initial scheme, and of course became, as it grew and matured, it became the essential part of the scheme.
A joint effort between architect Charles Bassett of Skidmore, Owings & Merrill, landscape architect Peter Walker, founding partner of Sasaki, Walker & Associates, and Weyerhaeuser chairman George Weyerhaeuser, resulted in the design of the stunning 430-acre Weyerhaeuser corporate campus in Federal Way. According to Bassett, the campus is designed such that, quote, the landscaping and the building simply cannot be separated. They are each a creature of the other. The interior design of the headquarters building also reflected this sentiment by pioneering the open office plan, which was free of any partitions, allowing the exterior landscape to be enjoyed from almost any location inside the building.
It was beautifully planned and well executed architecturally and landscape-wise, and notwithstanding the company not be centered there anymore, I still think that we've done something of beauty, significance, and value.
The campus was recently purchased by a developer who has expressed interest in preserving the headquarters building, but is moving forward with plans to develop portions of the surrounding acreage. Local residents are concerned that the massing and scale of the proposed new construction will overwhelm the site, adversely impacting the balance of the built and natural landscapes that are so integral to the site's significance.
The axial relationship of the building is that it can be seen from both highways, and you look down the lake on one side and you look up the meadow on the other side. The view sheds were terribly important. So if you see another building as you look up the valley or look down the lake, it does real harm to the initial building.
Advocates are also concerned for the futures of the Rhododendron Species Botanical Garden and the Pacific Bonsai Museum, two distinct and significant cultural resources also on the property.
I think that rhododendron species development and the bonsai in particular are valuable in their own right. They're kind of unique. They really are worthy of a full defense of whatever it takes.
With such an expansive campus, a certain level of development is inevitable. Even the original plans indicated areas for additional construction activity.
Weyerhaeuser actually had plans for different buildings on this property, but they blended in with what was here and enhanced it, made it better than detracting from it.
I would hope the new uses would be not totally incompatible with the quality of that which is already there.
Due to its exceptional historic and architectural significance, a particular care must be taken with any new development. New buildings must be sensitive to the original design philosophy of the campus, which emphasized integration with the landscape and environmental sensitivity.
There's reasons behind why the building looks like it does, and the landscaping and everything from the architects and the designers. You know, we just really want to preserve, protect, and maintain the unique character.
And I think what really has impressed me over time is the thought for longevity. I mean, it was a company that it took 40 years to grow their product. And then you have George Weyerhaeuser's leadership that created this. And he also put on this property the bonsai garden and the rhododendron garden, which are all long-term thinking. It's just special.
Thank you. So that was one of 6 videos we debuted at our fundraiser. That was kind of our a finale of the evening, if you will. It was the last video that we played. And I've really enjoyed the partnership that the Washington Trust has developed with the Save Weyerhaeuser Campus Group over the last several months as we've worked with them and learned more about the situation. The Washington Trust feels that, as I mentioned earlier, this building and the campus really has national significance. In the video, it mentioned the sort of open, the interior opening up to the exterior, but also the building was a pioneering example of the open office plan, which is very common these days. But in 1971, when that building was completed, it was one of the first of its kind, if not the first. So architecturally and landscape-wise, this is a really significant place, and the Washington Trust is honored to be one of the many organizations getting involved with this issue. So I thank the City Council and the Mayor for your time this evening, and I look forward to continuing to be involved in this advocacy effort and finding a solution that preserves the really essential character and nature of this campus while meeting a lot of the public's goals and, of course, the property owner's goals as well. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. And Lori and Jean, did you want to add?
I can do mine now.
Okay, let's do that.
So good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, City Council members, friends and neighbors. As you know, my name is Lori Seacrest, and I'm the proud president of the Save Weyerhaeuser Campus grassroots organization. And I wanted to take this opportunity to sincerely thank the board, members of the Washington Trust for Historic Preservation, for naming the former Weyerhaeuser campus as one of its most endangered properties in the state of Washington for 2017. It truly was a pleasure working through this process with Jennifer and her team. I can't look at Deborah. So we would not have gotten this honor if it wasn't for our communications director and historic chairperson, Jean Parietti. So I'd like to give her a big round of applause for seeing through the details of the application process. I know she's going to hate me, right? And for making this dream for our group come into a reality. And as you saw and heard on the video, we had 2 incredible speakers, besides Deborah and me, both George Weyerhaeuser and Peter Walker, and who, without the effort to connect with them by Deborah Hansen, could not have been possible. So I also want to thank Deborah for her continued knowledge and resources that she brings to the table when it comes to anything Weyerhaeuser. And thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Mayor Farrell, for your support, your continued support, and joining us at the Washington Trust announcement and dinner and fundraiser event held, as Jennifer mentioned, on May 20th. We all know how busy you are, and it meant a lot for us and our group for you to be there and to represent Federal Way. So we know we still have a long way to go to achieve our vision, which is to protect the west shoreline of North Lake, the rhododendron gardens, and the bonsai collection, to preserve the wildlife habitat, the crucial watershed land in the forests and the meadows and the campus, as well as its trails and public access to them. And also maintaining the character of the campus through the high-quality development that blends with the environment and brings living wage jobs to the community. Or as George Weyerhaeuser stated, that the new uses not totally be incompatible to the quality of that which is already there. I'm confident that together our Save Weyerhaeuser Campus Group, the city, the county, the state, and IRG, with the help of Theresa and now this recognition from the Washington Trust for Historic Preservation, we can continue the Weyerhaeuser legacy of this campus as being something of beauty, significance, and value. We are getting closer to saving this gem for our community and our region for the many generations to follow. So thank you all.
Thank you, Lori and Jean. It was my honor to be there. It was a great event. There were a number of, as they said, there were 6 videos, and it was fascinating to see the other entries. And it was at the St. Andrews, St. Edward's, former church, and just beautiful grounds there up in Bothell or Kenmore. And so it was great. You guys could write a paper on what it takes for grassroots advocacy. I've never seen, in 25 years of being involved in government and politics, I've never seen this kind of grassroots organization and advocacy. It really is a model on how to foster change in your community. So thank you and great work. Okay, and great presentation today. All right, now moving on, Certificate of Appointment, Diversity Commission, Councilmember Copain.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to invite Gregory Baruso, Sheila Kennedy, Nichelle Shelley, and Thomas Leonard to meet me at the dais. And if you would like to make any remarks, prepare to do so. While they're coming, I wanted to read the responsibilities of the Diversity Commission. The Diversity Commission advises the City Council on policy matters involving the community's cultural and ethnic differences, ensuring that these differences are considered in the decision-making process. You can read the Commission's 2016 and 2017 work plan, and it's our aim to help Federal Way in becoming a community in which we are united amidst diversity, where each individual is respected, equally valued, equally needed, and equally cherished. Equality is not sameness, it is equivalent value. So anyway, thank you all for coming.
All right, and you're all welcome to say a few words if you'd like. Not to put you on the spot. Greg, come on up. Congratulations, everybody.
Mayor and Deputy Mayor, City Council, thank you for this, I should call it a reappointment. I've been on the commission for probably 9 years now, so some people ask me, it's time to move on, and I say no, not yet. There's a lot of work to do, a lot to do with the city. I enjoy what I'm doing. I'd also look forward to working with the new members. It's a challenge because I'm kind of like the old guard that's left, so a little bit. But I look forward to challenge. I look forward to it. I look forward to working with you folks again and bringing diversity and recognizing diversity in the city. And that's what the main goal is to our commission. So thank you very much.
And Greg, thank you very much for the articles you've been providing in the Mirror and your role in diversity in this community.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Okay, and now, as you could see from the pictures on the TV screen, we've got Performing Arts and Events Center update. And first we'll have, in regard to the construction, E.J. Walsh, Deputy Public Works Director and PAEC Project Director. After that, we'll hear from our PAEC Executive Director, Theresa Yvonne, regarding programming, grand opening, and ribbon-cutting ceremony. So, without further ado, E.J.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, members of Council. I'm here tonight to talk briefly about the Performing Arts and Event Center and the construction update for June. So this picture is from actually yesterday. You can see from Town Square Park, you can see the spray park in the front. Monday morning at 10 o'clock in the morning or 11 o'clock in the morning, there's kids in there playing in the water. So the park's a huge success. But the purpose of tonight is to talk about the building behind it. You can see that big glass facade. On the right-hand side of the picture, you can see that VIP room sticking out, or Patrons Lounge. So just to give you a brief overview of where we stand, the notice to proceed was October 27th, 2015. Project completion is scheduled for this summer. Invoice to date is 82%. I will point out that the way the reports work, we use the invoiced amount. So it is the first week in June. The invoice for May will be here the end of this week or the beginning of next week. So for the purpose of this report, it only includes the invoices the city's actually received. Obviously, a bunch of work was done in May, so the 82% is falsely low relative to where we actually stand as far as completion. And I'm happy to tell you that this project is on time and on budget. So construction progress, this was March of 2016. You can see there's absolutely nothing there. So June of 2016, I'm going to pause on this picture. This picture is within 2 days of being exactly 1 year ago. So just to give you a little bit of perspective, if you notice in the center of the screen, you can just faintly see Mount Rainier. It probably shows up a little better on the TV screens than it does on the one in the front. But Mount Rainier is right here where the cursor is. September of last year, you can see the building's coming out of the ground. February of this year, the building's a little more flushed out. It's enclosed at this point. It's waterproof. There's no parking lot. And then from yesterday, notice you can no longer, on a positive note, no longer see Mount Rainier in this picture. So the parking lot's paved. The building's sided. We're moving right along. So some just quick pictures to kind of give the audience and council a perspective of the building. So the outside of the building is largely sided. We will be finishing up the last couple of areas this week. So stepping back a little bit, this is inside the parking lot. So this picture was from Friday. And if you notice in the foreground right up front, the parking lot is not paved in this area. I'm happy to tell you that it actually is paved if you go out there now. This picture was from Friday, and that lot is done at this point. So stepping back, this is not an artist rendering. We've all seen artist renderings that look something like this, but this is a picture of the actual Performing Arts Center. You can see Town Square Park's hopping down there. They're working on the improvements along 316th. The wall has been cleaned up. You can no longer see graffiti on that retaining wall out front. Another view, again, from the same vantage point. It's all cleaned up. So this is the parking lot from earlier this week. You can see it's fully done, and we are starting the landscaping. So this is going back to last week. You can see they're actually working, they're paving. The one missing pane of glass, and this is just kind of a little cool thing. This pane of glass is actually in a case on the ground. This is what they use to, if they need to have a delivery go to the upper floor. There's a guardrail that can be removed here, and they actually use a forklift to lift material up into this opening to get things to the second floor. So they're paving away. There's a bald eagle flying right in the sky over here that you can't really see in the picture, but that's what everyone's looking at. So 314th, I'm happy to tell you, is done. The road was reopened to traffic last week. This is fully, the street improvement portion of this project is fully done on 314th. So that is looking the other direction. This is looking to the east again on 314th. Again, this picture is from last Friday, the day that the road reopened. This is actually paved if you go out there today. So going inside the building now, you can see that ceiling is fully done. All these little dots that you're seeing on the ceiling are fiber optic lights. So they're all individually controllable within the theater space. This wall is fully done. This wall is primed out. They are moving material to be able to paint that. Looking the other way, this is the view you see most of the days in the summer from inside the building. And everything you're seeing, there's equipment on the ground, but everything you're seeing is finished. So the ceiling above you is done. The glass is all obviously in front of you. You're looking through, and you got a nice view of Mount Rainier there. Going into the back of house area, we're in the kitchen now, if you didn't figure that out. But you can see the equipment's all installed. We are at the point that they are final cleaning and putting away odds and ends. We're to the point that in this bottom right corner, you see the food service rack that's already in place. So we're addressing details like that at this point in the project, that it's that final push. Inside the dressing room, all the lights are in and working. This is all the makeup lights. The mirrors are being put on the wall today. So this is the green room, or the kind of the waiting room area. So there's a funny story briefly with this picture too. So they were putting in the garbage disposal when I was out there taking some pictures. And the plumber was laying on the floor working on wiring and running this pipe that you see right in front of it. And he saw me with a camera, and he goes, "What are you doing?" And so I'm just taking some pictures to show council and the public. Very quickly, he got out of the way and said, I don't want to be in this picture. You take your pictures, I'll come back to work in a minute. So going upstairs, the drop ceiling is open because they were actually working on starting this was in at one point. They actually took a bunch of the panels back out to work on the commissioning and the startup of the HVAC system. So they're balancing the heating system. So when the heat turns on in the building, the entire building's heated evenly. So these panels are actually sitting right around the corner, but you can see all the doors are installed, walls are painted, and the ladder is actually there associated with that startup. Glass railing in the front. This is the main patron area on the mezzanine level. It's in. So going into, again, staying in the public spaces within the bathrooms, you can see all the fixtures are in. We are doing things like putting baby changing stations on the wall. Very exciting. We have hooks for purses. This is in the women's room, or jackets. Inside the theater, they're working on installing seats. This is the back upstairs level of the mezzanine. So this is from inside the orchestra pit. In the final condition, the railing comes up, and that's all installed. However, they have it in an override mode right now to keep it clean. So the orchestra pit where I'm standing is actually down about 6.5 feet below the stage level. So because they have that guardrail overridden, you can see the caution tape up here. That's just because it's in an override mode, but that's fully done. The rigging, we are continuing to test rigging. You can see there's a guy hanging on the line set right here to make sure everything is load bearing. And he does have a harness on, in case anyone was wondering. So again, pictures of the rigging. Everything you're seeing is final condition. The big thing hanging here is test weight. So they're actually testing the rigging, and the way that works is they set this weight, they go up, they measure the height of the pipe, and they wait, depending on which line set it is, anywhere from 4 to 24 hours, and they come back and measure it. And the goal is that the pipe hasn't moved at all. We allow up to 1/8 of an inch of movement. I can tell you that none of them have moved so far. But we're working our way from the front to the back. We have about 4 more to go. But everyone's passed so far, but that's why there's a big box hanging in the air. They're painting counterweights. You know, this is the base weight. You can see this is actually a finished product, so this is up high in the catwalks. And all the cables that you're seeing are the cables that are used to hook up lights for an actual theatrical event. So these are all cables that hang down, and they're used for a specific event, and then they're unplugged and plugged into different lights. And you know, this is done. This is related to the operation of the facility. So going into the other way in the main stage, they're working on putting the final coat on the floor and the stage. You can see all the sound AV system is done. Index rail lighting is done. Power disconnects are done. So I mentioned earlier that they're working on starting up the heating and ventilation system, and that's what this is. What's not shown behind me is the 10 mechanics and engineers charging the system. You can see a bunch of cables going in here. But this unit was actually, you can see the power switch is on. This unit was actually turning, and they have it hooked up to a bunch of laptops, and they're measuring diagnostics right now. So this is more units up on the roof, and this is the mechanical room. It's also fully done. So we are kind of switching topics a little bit. This came up at the last council update. So we are on track to achieve our LEED Silver certification, which is what this project was originally designed for. I'm happy to tell you we are right on track with where we are supposed to be. There are a handful of credits that we are still working on obtaining that cannot be obtained until the building's done. You know, it's things like the building was properly balanced for the HVAC system. They come out, they inspect the lights and make sure we actually put in the lights we said we were going to use, things like that. So those credits are not awarded yet, nor should they be, quite frankly. So we are right where we're supposed to be with our LEED Silver certification. And, you know, when we do these updates, I focus predominantly on what's been done since the last time I was up here. So I thought for this time it would be interesting to council and the public to actually see a couple of the faces that have been out there. So with the exception of the guy on the roller, all of the people that you see have been out there for the last 3 to 6 months doing various work on the site. So you know, you can see them working away. Inside the building, it's much the same crew. This is Sergio. Sergio is the lead framer for the entire project. He's been on this project for almost 18 months. So, you know, it definitely does have an impact. He is also actually a resident of Federal Way. So the other question I got the last time I was here, and I touched on in response to council, but just to make it fully, public knowledge, was the apprentice and journeyman ratios that we were required to have, and then what do we have. So the contract requirement, which was a self-imposed contract requirement, the city elected to do this, it was not a requirement of grant funding, was a 10% apprentice requirement. I'm happy to tell you it's actually 27% is what we're achieving, so we are well above the city's expectation and the city's goal. Again, the standard disclaimer, it's actually going to be slightly higher than that. This is through April because we don't have the May invoice yet. So in plain English terms, that's over 20,000 hours of apprentice work. The journeyman work is 76,000 hours. So, I mean, we've been building this building for a little while, and, it's been ongoing, and it's been a true labor of love for a lot of the people that I just showed you pictures of. But to put it into perspective, you're talking almost 100,000 hours of work has gone into this building. I'm also happy to tell you there have been 0 serious lost time work accidents so far in this project, which is another huge milestone, especially when you're talking about these kind of numbers of hours. So what's left? So the contractor is working through punch list and testing startup. You saw pictures of the rigging testing that the city has our third-party contractor doing. So city safety testing falls in that category, as does HVAC startup. City fit out, which Theresa is going to talk about a little bit, I think. And I'm also happy to tell you that our IT department is in the building at this point, so we are already working on some of that stuff. And then the thing I'm sure all the community is looking forward to is the grand opening. So again, this is kind of my closing comment to council and the public. So this is a comparison of a year. So it's been a very wet year, but as you can see, even despite all of the rain, we have a parking lot, we have an enclosed building, and, well, we have a building when you compare the two pictures side by side. So.
Very good. All right, EJ, thank you very much. Why don't we hear from Theresa, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Okay, so as soon as EJ is done, or very shortly thereafter, because I have a few furniture things I need to move in, we're going to have a ribbon cutting and community opening day. So we have a save the date card that is going out in the mail here very shortly. This is a little piece of it. You can see the rendering that we've been using for years, and you've seen that for a while, and there's an actual photograph of the building. So we're peeling that away, and it will be the actual building. We'll have a ribbon cutting at 11 a.m. out in the front of the building. We'll open the doors and everyone can come in and spend the day there. You can come and go as you please. So we have a schedule of events. We have things going on in the building throughout the day. So in the PAEC room, we have poetry readings. We have Valerie Seagrass coming and doing traditional foods and medicine program. Story time by King County Library. Of course, on the stage, all of our resident arts organizations, the Federal Way Chorale, the Federal Way Symphony, Harmony Kings, Jet Cities, Tacoma City Ballet. And we have the Korean dancers because the Korean Youth Symphony is actually going to be in Korea on a field trip. And so they're a little bit of our substitute. And then James Jelassic, our Steinway artist, will close out the day for us. In the lobby, we have the small consortium of the Federal Way Youth Symphony, Limelight Performing Arts Studio. The Patrons Lounge will be open, which EJ alluded to that building, and I'll highlight it again. Facility tours all day, which I will do a shout out to the community. We are looking for ushers and folks to come help and seat people for performances. And so, of course, one of the benefits of being an usher is you get to see performances for free, because you must be inside the theater while we're watching over our 700 patrons to make sure that they're safe. So concessions will be open all day, ticket sales, subscriptions will be going on sale June 20th. You're all invited to come back here at 11 a.m. on the 20th of June, and we will have a press conference then, and I will unveil the season of performances. Single tickets will be on sale by August, and we'll have reservations for rental information. And again, as you can see, this nice big building, this room that you see here is the Patrons Lounge, which quite frankly, the view of Mount Rainier from that room is nothing short of spectacular on a day like today when it's clear and gorgeous and beautiful. And we will unveil the entire facility. And with that, EJ and I will take any questions.
All right, council, any questions? Councilmember Moore.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. EJ, I understand that the building has been retrofitted already for solar panels at a later time to be arriving?
It has not been retrofitted.
It's not.
What was done was, as part of the initial construction, we, at the request of council, made provisions to have future solar in the building. So that was incorporated before the building was built. So there was no retrofit done. But there are conduit pathways to get from the electrical room up to the roof to allow for future solar.
Oh.
But retrofit just implies we rip something out, and we didn't rip anything out.
Oh, so you pretty much built the building
We
with
built
the
the buil-
plan
we-
to add solar panels at a later time?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Good question. Council, anything else? Deputy Mayor Burbridge?
I just wanted to thank you both for a wonderful presentation. I'm very excited and looking forward to the final finishing of everything and the opening day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, very exciting. Very, very exciting. Okay. Council, anything else? Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Good work. Great work. Okay, now moving on to Mayor's Emerging Issues and Report. First, we're going to hear about the Center Plaza Fire Report. As many of you know, the Center Plaza location, formerly known as the Kratzenberg property, just immediately south of Town Square Park, had a fire at one of the three buildings. I've asked, as part of my issues report, to have Brian Davis, our Community Development Director, and Tim Johnson, our Economic Development Director, to talk about what steps are we working on with regard to the owners of the property, and also working with the occupants and the businesses of that building. So, Brian, please.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. So, as you're all aware, on May 21st, there was a fire at the Center Plaza behind Red Lobster on the 2100 block of 320th. This was on a Sunday, and at the beginning of the week following this event, we immediately reached out to the property owner to determine if there's anything that the city could do to assist with his efforts to recover his property and redevelop it in the future. We did meet with the property owner, his realtor, his architect, and his engineer on the 31st, and inquired of their, what their plans were. It became quickly apparent that they want to move on this as quickly as possible. They are not in a position where they want to just, as soon as the site is released, to discuss what they want to do. They're ready to move on this. There's several things that are slowing this process. This is an aerial view of the fire. The building, as you can see, is pretty much a total loss. There were approximately 8 different businesses in the building, and so each of the businesses has, if they had insurance, they have insurance investigators on site. The Bureau of Alcohol and Tobacco and Firearms is also investigating the cause of the fire. Because of the diversity of businesses that were at the site and what the contents that are remaining in the building, there are some sensitivities as this process moves forward that, again, is somewhat slowing the process. Once a cause is determined, that will then set in motion many other things to get this moving in terms of the other businesses, what their plans are, what they can recover, and where they may relocate, what the property owner will do with the property. But as of right now, we got a report from the fire marshal that the investigation is scheduled to continue until the end of next week. So there still is some time that they are looking into this property. Again, we believe that the property owner, we've been in regular contact with him, and Tim will touch on the efforts that we're making to help out the business and himself to redevelop the property. But we do not believe this is going to be sitting like this for long. Once the investigation is done, we believe that the property owner will move quickly. There are some code provisions if we have to resort to compelling the owner to clean up the property. We can do that, but again, I don't believe that will be necessary based on our meetings with him. So, Tim, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Mayor, Deputy Mayor, City Council members, Tim Johnson, Director of Economic Development. So on that unfortunate day, city staff was immediately on the site. It was a difficult situation as we didn't want to get in the way of first responders, but we were on the site, particularly assessing and helping those businesses that were adjacent to this building that suffered significant smoke damage, and so working with them and helping them understand what building permits or any kind of permit application activity that they needed, we would be there in support of them moving forward. I've given you a handout. Right after the fire, if you recall, we provided an overview of the assistance that we would be providing. I've given you an update today. I want to kind of work through something with you. There are 9 tenants that were in the property. The sad fact, and I want to enumerate this for you, is that one company, Emerald City Smoothies, the husband and wife team was in the midst of selling the business when the fire went up. They have two franchises here in town, and so they had to go back and renegotiate this effort as they were in the midst of this. They'll wait for their fire insurance claim and move on with their retirement, but they were planning to retire. They had an individual ready to purchase this. I had talked with Mark McDonald today. I had informed Brian. I also want you to know that Brian and I were in early contact with this, and we met. We talked the day of the fire. We met first thing on Monday morning. We cross-checked all of the information that the press and news media were coming up with. I think Brian had pulled this particular photograph from one that we had noticed that came from KING television. What's of interest in the day for us as we deal with businesses and business retention, it's surprisingly so, out of this group of businesses, only one had a website. We'll certainly be recommending working with the Mirror to make sure that as they go into business going in the future that they can work with the Mirror and identify opportunities to use technology to bolster their business. Not everybody has responded. We've reached out multiple occasions to these folks. We've cross-checked with the property owner who has been in contact with them. But not everybody apparently uses digital phone systems and answering systems for their business, so it's been a little bit difficult in trying to get a hold of everyone. But we're there and we're on site. We'll continue to be working to try to address any of their needs. Brian didn't cover this today, but Mark McDonald, again the property owner, was in today. He submitted his plans for a development review on this process, so we plan to move that forward. And his explanation to me this morning was that he intends to, as far as he can, try to help and assist all of those businesses find relocation within the complex of the rest of the property that he has here.
Well, I want to say thank you both for your efforts and especially the immediacy with which you addressed it. I had a chance to talk to Mark McDonald actually on the scene on the morning that it occurred. The chief and I were there and assessing the efforts. You know, one of the things is we should probably get the fire department in here and commend them. As you all know, folks that are familiar with these 3 buildings, the distance, Chief, about 10, 15 feet, the distance between these two buildings? About 20 feet. We are so fortunate. In fact, actually, the first picture that Brian put up shows actually one of the second building. We are very fortunate that second building did not go up in flames as well, and as are those business owners. This could have been multiply compounded, or because these buildings are so close together. Our fire department was there. This occurred in the early morning hours, about 4 o'clock in the morning, and within minutes, our fire department was there and was able to. Do you have that first picture that you put that had the flames?
Yeah, I was just going to point out, this is so we're looking west. This is the building to the north, and right here, this corner just barely got touched with a little bit of smoke damage, but the building was preserved thanks to the fire department.
We are so fortunate that second building didn't go up. But if the second building had gone up, then it would have been about whether the third one would have gone up. This could have easily compounded. And, I think we may want to have the fire department in here and commend them for their very, very quick and efficient and proper. There it is right there. And see how it shows how close the buildings are and how intense the flames were. So, and this was ongoing for, late into the morning, actually into the early afternoon where they were still dousing it. So, and I thank you very much for your very, very quick and professional response on both of those fronts. So, okay.
Jim.
Councilmember Selski.
Yes, yeah, thank you both for the presentation. I'm not sure when these buildings were built, probably in the late 70s or something like that, early 80s. And a lot of things have changed in our city since then. And I'm just wondering if the building code or something has changed requiring a new structure significantly different than the one that is no longer there.
Sprinklers is a big difference. So they know that the new building will need to be sprinkled, and that likely would have contained the fire on this portion of the building, and the rest of the building might have been saved. So that's a big difference between the 70s and today.
Okay, but as far as the size of the building, number of tenants, anything like that, is there any other?
There are occupant loads, but that's considered at the time. If there's a tenant or occupation of a new business, that's taken into consideration at the time.
So they, in effect, could build something just like that with sprinklers?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Councilmember Honda.
Oh, thank you so much. When they determine the cause of the fire and where it started, is that business then responsible for, will the owner go after that business to rebuild?
Good question, and I don't know what, that's more of a matter between the owner and the business for them to sort out. The city likely wouldn't have a role in getting in the middle of that, but certainly if the cause comes back that they were somehow irresponsible with what they were doing, the owner might have a case.
Thank you.
Very good. Council, any other questions? All right, again, thank you very much for your great work on that. Okay. Oh, thank you. Okay, much better vision to look at. It's too bad, boy. It's too bad we don't have the picture of all the fire department personnel that were out there. It was just, and the river of water. One of the things, actually, we had heard that the debris field from this reached all the way down to like 324th, because you can imagine all of that water coming off the structure and kind of going down into the gutters. It went down to, I think, down as far south as 324th, or maybe even further south. So pretty extensive, and it was did they use 1 million gallons of water? Did I hear? Yeah, just a tremendous. Yeah, it was a lot. It was great work on that. We've got a great fire department. We're very fortunate. Okay, last Tuesday we had the Hachinohe, Japan mayor and his delegation. They're a sister city from Japan. We are coming up on a 25th anniversary of that sister city relationship. Next year, we had some folks that were involved, Mary Gates and former fire commissioner Mark Freitas, who was very, very involved in that process. And we had it in here in this chamber, and it was great to be able to hear from them. They had a fairly large delegation. They had some junior high school students that had come the Friday before, and we had a great chance to exchange gifts, talk about future exchanges and just about our ongoing friendship. And they told a story about as a result of the tsunami from a few years back, from 2011, there had been at one of their temples a piece of debris that had landed all the way down, essentially on the Oregon coast. And they were actually, from here, they were going to go visit that location because the people of that community had returned, it was a top portion of a temple, and they not only paid for it to go back all the way back to Hachinohe, Japan, but they reinstalled it as well. And so great act of friendship and camaraderie, and so it was great to have an opportunity to speak with my counterpart from our sister city in Japan. We've got our neighborhood, our next neighborhood connection meeting, which is essentially a town hall meeting, but we come out to the neighborhood. That is next Wednesday at Decatur High School at 6:30 p.m. That's next Wednesday, 6:30 p.m., Decatur High School. Hope you can make it, and we'll have a presentation from our chief, from Marwan, our Public Works, and Rick Perez, and I think we'll probably have Brian Davis, and we'll have all staff there as well. And council will be there, and it'll be great to hear from the folks in that area of town, and everybody. It's open to everybody in the community. All right, Human Services update. Jeff Watson.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and council members. As you may be aware, as a part of the city's receipt of federal community development block grant funds, the city also participates with King County as well as many other communities across King County in the administration of the many other funds that come into King County and participates in taking advantage of those to the extent that we're able to. The city does that via a couple of interlocal cooperation agreements. One is for the use of federal home funds. The other is for the use of housing rehabilitation dollars, which are sort of a local state dollar. They are funds that come from the document recording fees. And so the city participates in a consortium with Auburn, Kent, the city of Bellevue, and King County via those two interlocal agreements. Those interlocal agreements have a 3-year life cycle that continues to rotate, and the agreements that we have currently run from 2015 through 2017. The next 3-year period will be 2018 through 2020. The agreements that are currently in place have automatic renewal provisions, and they are coming up for renewal. So we just wanted to let you know about that and see if you have any questions about it.
All right, council, any questions about that? And because there's going to be the rollover, we wanted to make sure that council was aware of this. Deputy Mayor Burbidge?
I just would like to add something and see if you want to make a comment. I appreciate your presentation and information to us. And you mentioned the Community Development Block Grant funding as well. And I think sometimes because we address these categories of human service type funding at different times of the year, sometimes there, I think, can be a lack of awareness that we do we have 3 main categories. We also provide funding from our general fund for human services, and I think to maybe provide that indication as well gives a more complete picture of the city's role in.
Well, I would be happy to very quickly run through that for those in the audience this evening. The city, in addition to the funds that I've just talked about, which we share across the county, the city receives community development block grant funds, which are funding from the Department of Housing and Urban Development, and they come directly to the city, and they are used within the city for community development efforts and community services and human services efforts. Those funds come into the city on an annual grant basis, and for the majority of those funds, we use those on an annual basis and go through an application process on an annual basis. A portion of those funds, 15%, are for what are called public services. It's essentially human services. And we join those funds with the other local source of funds, which are our general funds for human services. That application process takes place every 2 years, and the grants are awarded on a 2-year basis. So we combine those two together, and we administer those two, and to the extent that it is practicable, we work with both of those sources of funding together to help the residents of Federal Way. So.
Thank you.
All right. Great. Thank you. Councilmember Honda.
Thank you. Is this one of the programs in danger with President Trump's proposed budget?
The home funds are, as well as CDBG. I think we talked about this briefly in the past. The budget that was proposed by the administration does seek to eliminate the home program and the CDBG program. They were, in fact, funded at the same level they had been in 2016 for the 2017 budget year. And again, these programs are very popular, so I'm not overly concerned, but we certainly are keeping close watch on what's going on with regard to the conversations. And I receive emails from a variety of different organizations that have offices and work with HUD and others in Washington and send out information on a regular basis. So I expect that the programs will continue to be in existence as we go forward. Not clear yet whether there may be reductions in those programs or not, and we probably won't know that until, I would guess, honestly, sometime in 2018.
All right. Council, anything else? All right. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Okay. This Saturday, we've got our Flag Day celebration at the King County Aquatic Center. That's at 9:30 a.m. It's being put on by our own Federal Way Seroptimist and sponsored by King County Councilman Pete Von Reichbauer. And should be a great event, and it's great to hear from veterans, and they usually have essay contests, and I'm sure many of us here on the dais will be there. Okay, and then a report on community events. We had Blue Poppy Day, a great annual event on May 20th. Same day, we had Break the Chains, 5K run. Had an opportunity to, several hundreds of people there. It's a great organization. The Federal Way Coalition Against Trafficking. They just do a phenomenal job, and they did a great job of getting a big crowd and raising awareness, and as the button said, being loud about that issue. We had the Touch a Truck event on that day, so it was a busy day on 520, and it's always great. John, great work with your folks, and just a lot of fun trucks out there. It was just a great event. We had the law enforcement torch run for Special Olympics, and I was out running, not long, but a little bit, long enough to hold the torch and carry the torch with the chief and several of our law enforcement personnel, and we ran. The torch came through Federal Way and Federal Way PD, and our folks did a great job carrying the torch through town on behalf of the Special Olympics. So it was great to see that. Very next day, we had 4 big events. We had Relay for Life. And that was a great event. It's a Holly Junior High at 11 o'clock. We had the 54th annual Marine Hills and Swim and Tennis Club Parade. And many of the council members and I were there, and they always get the fun cars and the kids, and it was just a great community event. My son loved Hooked on Fishing. Again, John Hutton in the back. Great job with Hooked on Fishing. They dump a bunch of fish in a netted area, and Ben was able to catch 2 fish rather quickly, and then I had to go home and try to figure out how to cook the fish, which was an adventure. Thank God, it's a good thing you guys gave cooking directions. Okay, and then we had the multi-service center crab feed, which was amazing, and was just hundreds and hundreds of people at the King County Aquatic Center. And then report on regional meetings, regional representation. As I sit on the Sound Cities Association Board of Directors, we had our board meeting on 5/17, and that went well. We had our SCORE regional jail meeting in 5/31. The Puget Sound Regional Council General Assembly was held last week, and they elected a new president, which is a Snohomish County executive, and our new Pierce County executive was named vice chair. And then on Friday, we had our Valley Communications 911 board meeting, of which I'm the chair. That's my report. A lot of stuff going on. Let's now move on to the most important part of the evening, which is public comment. And I've got some pink sheets. And if you have not already filled one out and would like to speak, we have time as we have a few comments. I'll go ahead and name a few names, and we'll just get people in the queue. First, we're going to hear from John Edmonds, and then Tony Paglioccio. Mr. Edmonds.
Mr. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, council members, good evening. My name is John Edmonds. I've been a Federal Way resident for almost 27 years. I've lived that entire time on Southwest 297th Street, and I'm here to share my frustration with you over property crime. That being said, I want to comment on the Knights of Columbus and the honor that they gave our police chief. I support them wholeheartedly. I think they do a remarkable job. But in my neighborhood, we're getting hit with property crime at a relatively high rate. In the first 15 or 16 years when I lived in Federal Way, we did not have or appear to have any real issues with property crime. The last 9 or 10 years, my office, my home, my pickup truck, I have a small business. I have a pickup truck. I'm required to carry equipment, supplies, tools. I have a job trailer, and I have my personal boat. It's been broken into 18 or 19 times in the last 8 or 9 years. I've only filed a couple of reports regarding that because some of the things that I did to protect myself was that I put a closed circuit television system in on my house. I've got 2 cameras on my house watching my equipment in my pickup truck. Part of the frustration of that was that on the first time I caught somebody on my camera, I called the Federal Way Police Department, and one of the officers came out and reviewed the video footage I had, and they asked me a very succinct question: do you have a license plate number for the vehicle? And I did not. And he was very discouraging. He said, I don't think there was anything we can do. I had a clear picture of the vehicle. I had a clear picture of the individual that was breaking into my car or into my pickup truck. And from that point on, I just decided that it was not worth filing a report, so I have not filed any until the last instance, which was the 25th of last month. I caught a guy trying to break into my truck, and I was able to dissuade him to leave by yelling out my bedroom window. I heard him come up, and he took off. The instance of these crimes in Federal Way, I went on the report, the crime statistic report, looking for 98023 incidents in the last month from April 25th to May 25th. There were 6 violent crimes, 25 property crimes, and 2 quality of life crimes, with a ratio of 18% violent crime, 25% or 75% property, 6% quality of life. And that same holds true for the city of Federal Way. That same ratio holds true for a total of 742 instances in that month period in Federal Way. What I'm looking for is, I want your support in working to try to get more police officers for Andy and have them focus on property crime in our area and make their presence known in our area. I do not see any officers coming into our area. So I thank you for your time, appreciate that, and I hope we can do something to address the issue of property crime in Federal Way that's increasing.
All right. Thank you, John. We're going to, myself and our staff and the police department will follow up with you. I see you gave us your email address. All right, thank you very much. Okay, now Mr. Paglioccio.
Pagliacco.
All right, you got it.
East Coast Italian from Boston.
All right, very good.
Mr. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, council members, my name is Tony Pagliacco. I'm current resident of Federal Way. As a compassionate person, I apologize. I must be blunt yet honest about a serious issue. As campaign season has started, there's some of you who need our support, but in reality, it's the public that needs your support. We need your support in facing an issue that's going to cripple our city and is currently decaying the potential our great city has. The issue is homelessness due to drug addiction. It seems almost everywhere you go nowadays in Federal Way, you cannot go without encountering someone with a sign begging for money or worse, being harassed or threatened by someone in the parking lots of our local businesses. I understand the homeless issue, As National President of Omega Delta Phi Fraternity Incorporated, which is a national multicultural community service organization located at 70 universities in the U.S., my men routinely go in the field and provide service, comfort, and resources to those in those similar positions. Here in Federal Way, I'm not sure what other support we can provide at the moment, but I do know in most cases, resources are not wanted. It's money that's wanted, because money buys drugs. I can say this because I pulled over to talk to these people. Over the last, I'd say, 7 weeks, there's been 7 instances I've pulled over and talked to these people and asked them, do you want to come to my house and take a hot shower? Do you want to change of clothes? Do you want a hot meal? And each time I've been told, no thanks, I just want the money. Do you know why? Because none of what I offer them will get them high. If you want this city to reach the next level, we need to be a magnet for successful business opportunities, and more importantly, provide a safe place for our children and families. We need to clean up the streets and find a solution that will help the people who want help and find alternatives for those who do not. As a city of unlimited potential, Federal Way must attack this issue head on, not with words, but with action. I want a city where I feel safe, where my daughter, who 3 years ago was made a paraplegic by a drug abuser, I want a city where she can be safe, that I can let her go in her wheelchair from 1st Avenue to 320th and not be harassed or threatened. I want a city where all parents can feel comfortable with the level of safety being provided to our children. Our police play the hand that they are dealt, and it's not easy for them. Yet I stand here and I thank them for their tireless dedication to the safety of our community. But it starts with the people who stand before me, and I ask you, please make this city safer. Thank you.
Thank you. Well said, thank you. Julian Lowe. And then Roger Flygear.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, City Council members. I'm Julian Lowe, Local Government Affairs and Public Policy Manager with Puget Sound Energy. I'm here tonight to talk a little bit about a couple of our green power programs. First, Green Direct, and next, Solar Choice. Green Direct creates a new partnership between PAEC and its customers, including large commercial, municipalities, and other government entities. PAEC created Green Direct in direct response to our customer requests. Green Direct provides participating customers with a direct link to a new resource. And in phase 1, that will be a new wind project located here in Washington State. Green Direct was approved by the Washington Utility and Transportation Commission and became effective on September 30th, 2016. Participating customers are enrolling in long-term contracts of 10, 15, or 20 years. As of April 30th, PAEC has enrolled the following customers: the City of Anacortes, Bellevue, Mercer Island, and Snoqualmie, King County, Western Washington University, Sound Transit, Target, REI, and Starbucks. PAEC first started exploring the idea of the Green Direct product nearly 5 years ago to meet the growing energy needs and the carbon reduction goals of our large commercial and municipal customers. We are very proud of Green Direct and look forward to meeting the growing energy needs and carbon reduction goals of our county and municipal customers. At any time, me, along with my colleagues, would be happy to speak with Federal Way staff to talk more about Federal Way's prospective participation. Next, I'd like to talk about Solar Choice, which is PAEC's newest renewable program that launched on April 1st. Solar Choice is designed for electric customers to support solar energy generated by independent Northwest producers. No panels are installed on the customer's home or business, and instead, just like PAEC's Green Power program, where energy is generated at a separate location and added to the grid on their behalf. The difference between Solar Choice and Green Power is that Solar Choice is 100% solar power, whereas Green Power uses a blend of renewable resources. For as little as $5, or in blocks of 150 kilowatt hours more a month, customers can match a portion of their power usage with renewable energy. Customers are welcome to participate in both Green Power and Solar Choice. As of last week, 2,000 customers have signed up and only 800 slots remain. For more information about Solar Choice, for all the Federal Way residents in here, please visit www.psc.com/solarchoice. Thank you so much, and PSC, as always, looks forward to working with the Mayor, Council, and City staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Julian.
Thank you.
All right. All right, Roger Flyger, and then Mark Green.
Mayor, Deputy Mayor, council members, and fellow citizens of the city of Federal Way. First of all, I'd like to thank our veterans for their service in our country and in commemoration of D-Day. Follow up with what the mayor had to say there. So I'm a VFW service and JAG officer for the VFW post in Auburn, 1741. We have a very active post there. I really want to talk about the Weyerhaeuser campus over there, but I want to touch on something that I was very active on a number of years ago, and I think the only person that's on the city council that may remember that is Deputy Mayor Burbidge, and that's when the state of Washington wanted to locate a sexual predator transition level 5 in Federal Way. And I stepped up and I fought that, and it's the same thing with the Weyerhaeuser campus over there. I'm going to stand here and I'm going to take the blame for this. I bought the first 100 signs, those yard signs that you see out there that are green and white, and I gave it to the Save Weyerhaeuser Campus Group, and that's lighting that fire. And we have to light that fire when we see issues that are important to us. And I want to thank Jennifer for her video presentation and Lori for her comments tonight, because that means a lot to me. The other thing, another part of that that's really important to our community, our bigger community here, is the Hachinohe waterway. And we need to make sure that we protect that. Since we want to work that into our beautiful PAEC building over here with the art that's going to be out there, that's being created by Hachinohe's Harmony Group, I believe. I think that we need to keep that focus and keep that waterway healthy. And that's all I have to say about those issues. But I want to say one thing, that we see businesses still somewhat struggling in Federal Way. We saw a huge fire here. This year, in the state legislature, I worked on a House Bill 2005, which makes it a lot easier for businesses to do business in the state of Washington. And I hope that we can put our arms around that bill, because it's going to be enacted, and it's going to be operating through the Department of Revenue, so that businesses that have more than one business in the state of Washington can register all their businesses online, one-stop shopping, important to restaurants and those type of facilities. We have a lot of work to do, and I'm there to help do it. So no matter how this works, it comes out here with the Weyerhaeuser campus, you can count on my support always over there, because that is our central park, and that is our park for generations. And I'm on the park commission here, and I think we could use a 400-acre park. Just kidding. But thank you very much.
All right. Mark Green. And then Jerry Graham. And then Betty Taylor. And that's all the pink sheets I have.
The robber barons are back. By the way, thank God for public forums like this one, which are not subject to the whims of fake news operations like the Mirror tabloid. As you know from American history, the robber barons at the turn of the 20th century practically made indentured servants of the industrial workforce. Long hours, low pay, almost no workers' rights, as the union movement was just getting off the ground. The new robber barons are the real estate aristocrats and landlords who, in coalition with elected and unelected globalists, high-tech overlords, the big business cabal, feckless politicians, and fake news, are taking every last advantage of supply and demand, which the globalists are gladly helping out with, and exacting every last penny from low to moderately paid workers. Driving up the cost of housing in our nation to the highest percentage ever in American history, as pertaining to the amount from wages that must be applied to housing. On average, I believe that is around 75%, but many must pay an even higher percentage than that. It's called legal robbery, abetted by establishment politicians who give a wink and a nod to 21st century robber barons. There's no mystery why massive homelessness has become so common in our nation that it has become business as usual. I call it the Calcutazation of America. The Brotherhood of Robber Barons have conspired to drive up rents and mortgages to outlandish degrees, and nothing is going to change that kind of amorality until the real representatives of the people are voted into office. In federal way this year, that's called All-American Relief. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Okay, and now Jerry Graham.
Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and council members, I've been absent from the meetings here, and so I haven't had a chance to step up and say thank you for the positive direction things are starting to go. I hope that that continues. I would encourage the city and staff to work with IRG to make that a corporate office park without a whole bunch of trucks over there going in and out and around throughout the community and trying to get on to I-5, trying to get on to 18. It's since I was last year, it seems like it's worse. I mean, I use that access myself. So please work with IRG, maybe through the economic development to find corporate office people, not just let IRG sit there and do it, but step up and say, here, we can grow the city, we can grow it in a positive way. So thank you for your time, and please, I'll look forward to seeing more of that happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. And Jerry, you know, actually, Tim Johnson in the back of the room and I have had a lot of conversations with Tom Messmer about exactly that. We've taken some recruiting trips down to California, trying to get people and trying to connect those folks up. But we can do more, and we will. That's a great idea, Jerry. Thank you. All right, now Betty Taylor.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, council. Good evening, citizens. My name is Betty Taylor, and I live in the city of Pettiaway. I usually don't get up here and complain, but you know, I really have to complain right now because it's I'm irritated about something. Anyway, I noticed as I'm driving down PAEC Highway past 336, going south to 5, I noticed that there's a lot of construction going on in that area, and I think the construction is I don't want to use the terminology so bad, but it's making the road bad, making the roadway so bad that you really can't see what lane you're in. And I really need the city to really do something about that, because that's really detrimental to someone that's driving and you can't see what lane you're going in. I know that there's a lot of construction, a lot of street projects going on, and a lot of those street projects, they really impact citizens a lot. And I know that whoever is doing the work, I know it's a good work, but it's impacting the citizens because we have to drive down that road. We have to go north and we have to go south. It's really congested, really, really, really bad. I mean, sometimes you're stuck on PAEC Highway for like 15 to 20 minutes because of the construction. It's really bad, and I really hope that something could be done about it. Maybe, you know, we all know and realize that our streets need to be perfected. We know that they need work. But on the other hand, we can avoid traffic accidents. Also going down, you know, PAEC Highway, after you pass 336 and you go to that light, the next light, and then there's a 16th Avenue where you can veer to the left. Even veering to the left, you don't know what lane you're in. the lines really have to be clear so people can know what lane you're in. Otherwise, there's going to be accidents. And I don't think that we want accidents. I mean, I think we've had enough. So this is my complaint. And I don't want to just get up here and mumble a bunch of words, but I would like to see a solution because it's a real problem. When you think about the impact that it causes citizens.
Marwan?
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Taylor would be happy to know that last night the contractor restriped Pacific Highway from South 336 all the way to South 359th. They will be finishing it tonight. So the lane will be more visible at this time. And we normally do that every 3 to 4 months. The challenge is we had very wet winter where the paint will not stick to the pavement, and that's the reason you're seeing the deterioration of the pavement marking.
All right, thank you very much. All right, Ken Light.
I feel sorry for a couple of people here. The first one, this gentleman over here was talking about theft. I don't know if he realizes that theft is not considered a crime in the state of Washington. It's an insurance thing. I've been told that by Kent Police. I was a general contractor. I've had burglaries, trailers stolen. They don't consider it a crime. It's an insurance issue. Drugs didn't become a crime for a long time and because the King County prosecutor wouldn't prosecute anybody for raising drugs. So Kent got rid of their dogs for sniffing out drugs a couple years ago, before it was ever passed. The other gentleman here talked about cost of housing. I built as a general contractor. I don't know if you realize this, but I spent more money in fees and processing and taxes for building materials for a 2-story house. That's where the money's going. Uniform Building Code had a limit on how much you could charge for building permits. They went to the International Building Code, which doesn't have a limit. So you went from a couple $100 to $4,000 or $5,000 just for a building permit. I had to spend $2,000 to hook up to the water, and I had to do all the work and provide all the materials. There's where your cost of your housing is. Bureaucracy in this state and all of our little giveaway programs for people, the money has to come from somewhere. Fees. That's where the money is. That's why the cost of housing is significantly more in this state than any place else, because the contractor has to pass those fees, those costs, on to the public. It's a shame. I agree with you. But when you live in a state that believes that they can take in money from people anytime, any way they want, and just come up with another tax, and they don't call it a tax, they call it a fee. Well, a fee is a tax. Just to hook up to the sewer costs you $15,000. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Light. Okay, that's the last pink sheet I have. Is there anybody else who'd like to give a public comment? All right, sir. And then we'll fill out a pink sheet for you when you get done.
I will.
All right, thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor, council members, I really wasn't going to speak tonight, but I think I owe it to you, Mr. Mayor. I think I owe it to the community. A week or so back, I erroneously reported on one of the local websites, Neighbors, that Sub Federal Way had been picked out as a site for the heroin injection. I apologize for that. I didn't check facts first, Mr. Mayor. I know that you did, and I really appreciate that you did that. I want to apologize for doing that. That wasn't the right thing to do. Secondly, I'm here, mainly I was here tonight to support the Weyerhaeuser folks. Give you a little perspective from a fellow that built the Weyerhaeuser building. When that building was built, I worked for the Leckenby Company. We were either prime or one of the secondary contractors in that building. I wanted to give you a little perspective from someone who had great pride in what we did there. It was a beautiful site. We knew it was going to be great. Most every iron worker there was proud to be there, but I was more proud. At the present time that we built that, I was the 5-time chairman of local chapter of Trout Unlimited, national organization, the one that started Hooked on Fishing. We started that chapter with that group on Seal Lake. Being the environmentalist that I was at the time, I was more than proud to be there and do that. I got some blood in that building. I've got some blood on that site. And I feel that it's right that we do something as a city to save that site and do something for it. I met with this group on their first meeting. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to stay with them. There are some other issues in my life that took precedence. So I just want to report to you, first of all, I'm sorry for what went that way. Great, you guys are doing a tremendous job. Keep it up. Maybe $1 or $2 will be coming to you from my wallet. Thank you.
All right, thank you. It's Mr. Moe, right?
Larry Moe, yeah.
Larry Moe? Yeah. All right, thank you very much. And I did get your follow-up message as well. What Mr. Moe was referring to was there's a movement, and by the way, we are very proud of our Safe Federal Way campus group as well, but thank you. The group, what Mr. Moe is referring to is there's something about safe injection sites that's being considered by public health. Mr. Moe had heard from one of the signature gatherers that Federal Way was a predetermined site for this location. I immediately asked Yarden Weidenfeld, who handles criminal justice issues and policy issues for my office, to call down to Patty Hayes' office. She's the director of public health. We've had her here before, and we found out that was not the case, and so we got back to Mr. Moe. And thank you very much for your clarification. And it is important. I mean, if something like that was happening, we would want to make sure that we got word out so we could have a discussion about that. And so we were able to confirm that Federal Way has not been chosen for that site, that another location, actually the 2 locations that they're going to have not been predetermined. There's likely going to be one in Seattle. These are safe injection sites to deal with the opioid. There's going to be one in Seattle and one in King County. The exact locations have not been determined. I'm sure when the time comes, we'll have a vibrant conversation and debate about that issue. Councilmember Duclos?
Don't the sites are they just going to pick a place, or don't the sites have something to say about it?
I don't think that, this is
I know
highly
Seattle's going to have one. They've been talking
Right.
about it for quite some time.
They have.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I forgot to mention that I was told that by the fellow at Walmart who was gathering signatures. He told me and my wife that Federal Way had been cited for an injection site for heroin.
Right.
And so that's why I immediately came home and reported on papers that that was the case. And
Could I-
it was false. And I understand that Councilman, what is it? Martin? Okay. That name. Went over and talked with that fellow and told them, hey, you can't be doing that. You can't be saying something like that to people that are signing your signatures.
All right.
And I kind of thought this guy might be I'm sorry, I take it off. But he might be a professional gatherer and he's doing that to gain money. He told me he was not, so.
Got it. Right. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Larry. Yeah, and we, reasonable minds can differ on this, but that's not cited for Federal Way at this time. Councilmember Hahn.
Thank you. I'm on the King County Board of Health as a representative from the Sound Cities Association. And this was a recommendation in the task force report from the opiate task force report that there be 2 safe injection sites. One in the report, one was to be cited in Seattle and one was to be cited in South King County. When the Board of Health voted on this, it was part of a bigger issue that we voted on all of the recommendations that were recommended, that were in this report, and this was one of those recommendations. So The sites are not selected, and there is, at this point, no funding for the sites. So it is something to keep an eye on, because the report does state that one will be in South King County.
Very good. Okay, council, anything else? All right. All right, thank you very much. Great discussion. All right, now moving on to the consent agenda. We have items A through E. These items have gone through committee and can be passed all at once, unless a council member chooses to have an item pulled for separate discussion. I'll go ahead and read the items and then ask council if they have an item they'd like to pull. Item A, minutes for the May 16th, 2017 regular and special meetings. Item B, monthly financial report, April 2017. Item C, vouchers, April 2017. Item D, ZAU conduit space lease agreement amendment. Item E, tourism enhancement grant cycle 2, 2017. Council, are there any items that the council would want to discuss or consider for separate consideration? All right, hearing none, Deputy Mayor Burbidge, do you have a motion?
Thank you. I move approval of items A through E on the consent agenda.
Second.
Second.
All right, there's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the matter passes, or the matters pass. All right, now we're on to council business. We've got our Theresa, Yvonne back. And Theresa, we've got 3 items that are essentially closely related to the Performing Arts and Event Center. What I would suggest is that you run through items A, B, and C all together, and then they can be considered separately for voting. But let's run through your presentation, and then we'll open it up for questions.
I've read your mind already.
All right, thank you.
So furnitures, fixtures, and equipment, or as EJ likes to say, fit out for the Performing Arts and Event Center. Obviously, when we're done with all that wonderful construction that is going on, we're going to need to load in some items so that we can operate. So the items that are up for council is the stage draperies. There were actually 4 bids for the stage draperies, and the lowest bid was with Rose Brand for $49,098.94. Production lighting equipment, which the company that came in lowest there was Pacific Northwest Theater Associates. They're out of Seattle. They like to call themselves PNTA. $79,215.43. And for audio, video, and communications equipment, which is our microphones and sound equipment and projectors for those folks sitting at home, Morgan Sound Incorporated, and that's $115,516.47 to be exact. On that one, we had 3 bids that came in the lighting equipment and 2 different bids that came in on the sound equipment. So, furnitures, fixtures, and equipment, the mayor recommends authorized staff to award the Performing Arts and Event Center stage draperies to Rose Brand, the lowest responsible quote in the amount of $49,098.94, and authorize the mayor to execute the contract.
All right.
Any questions?
Council, any questions? Councilmember Moore.
Thank you. Theresa, you and I, and the committee, we talked about this, and obviously buying locally is really important. Can you remind me which one, because I believe out of these 3 recommendations, one of them was an item that...
There were 4 that applied for the draperies. Rose Brand PNTA, which is actually, they're headquartered out of Florida, but they do have an office here in Seattle. LVH Entertainment Systems and Stagecraft Industries. Now, Rose Brand is from California, but they came in at the lowest bid.
Okay.
All right, any other questions? Councilmember Honda.
Thank you. And at the FedRAC report meeting, we talked about this. So these items are coming out of the contingency fund. And will the contingency fund have enough money after all of the items that are paid for that need to be paid for to cover these? Or will this make the project go over budget?
No, it will not. So the contingency, as you know, the contingency and the FF&E are in the same pot of money. And so essentially, as we move through the project and we move forward, we've actually went back in and looked at some of the money that was in the construction project, one of them being the executive director search. which really doesn't belong in construction. And so we reallocated that into operating where it belongs. And so as we sit right now for FF&E, and Ade has separated that out for council so that we have contingency and FF&E on two separate line items, so that it's easier for us to track. But they really are in the same amount of money, and as we in the same bucket. And as we sit right now, we have $791,578 in FF&E, and so these three items total to $243,830.84. So we have money to go ahead and purchase all three of those.
So at that meeting, EJ had stated that there were things that he was working on to figure out how much he needed from the contingency fund for construction.
Mm-hmm.
Has he figured that out?
He has figured that out, and he's holding that money in contingency. That money still remains in contingency for him.
And he won't need any other funding from the contingency fund?
Short of any, extreme emergency that might happen, but I think our biggest concern that we were waiting on was the paving of the parking lot.
Because I don't want I won't vote to go over budget, so if you promise me that this doesn't go over budget, then I would support it.
As we sit right now, we have the money in the FF&E and we have money in contingency to finish the project. Now, I can't promise you if lightning hit tomorrow, something might happen, but as it sits right now, we're on track and we're on budget.
And then I have another question. So, and I asked this before, but I don't think I got an answer. Since this is in the budget for the PAEC, why is it coming to us for a vote? We didn't vote for the piano because that was in the budget for the PAEC. So why are we voting for these items?
Let me ask the council that question. Ryan? That's a legal question.
Sure. So I believe that we were treating operations and this portion of it as just following our normal contracting process, which anything over $20,000 we were bringing to council. And I think also a lot of this, Ms. Yvonne wanted council to be aware of what was being purchased. So even if we weren't legally required, we could have made the argument that we could have just done this. I think it was important to bring it to council.
So the piano was over 20,000, but it didn't come to council?
No, but it was the response to the piano is the reason why these things are being brought. We're not over budget, but the response to the piano purchase was as if I was out of bounds. And so in order to make sure that you are aware of what we're doing and in moving forward, I'm bringing all of these forward.
All right. Councilmember Moore?
I have to say I do appreciate having more of a opportunity to make these type of decisions and vote on these factors. And I know that since the piano, I believe, if I recall correctly, the council has come together and talked, and I know that the mayor did listen, saying that we want to play more of a role in reading everything and voting on everything and making decisions. So
yeah.
I believe that's what I recall when we were discussing this.
That's
I
right.
appreciate the question,
And
Councilman.
it was perfectly within, it was included in the construction budget. It was, furniture and fixture. It is, but we got a screaming deal on this nearly brand new piano that instead of $180,000, we got almost half that of what that piano ended up costing us. But because of the concerns, we want to make sure we're more than transparent.
Mm-hmm. I wasn't done. Could I finish my?
Sure.
Thank you. At the FedRock meeting, you also had other things for the FF&E. At what point then do you bring those to us?
So those will go to FedRock at the end of June, and then they'll come to council in July.
So there are 5 more items there?
There's smaller items, yes. There's furniture, and then there's platforms and risers, and there's some music stands and some chairs and some small tools.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Council, any other questions? All right. So you just did the drapes, right? Or did you do, obviously the drapes are first. Item A, we've had the staff report from Ms. Yvonne. Councilmember Duclos, do you have a motion with?
Yeah, I move to forward the Performing Arts and Event Center stage draperies contract to Rosebrand in the amount of $49,098.94 and authorize the mayor to execute the contract.
Second.
It's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, matter passes unanimously. Item B, Authorized purchase of audio equipment and communications equipment for the Performing Arts and Event Center.
I move to award the Performing Arts and Event Center audio, video, and communications equipment contract to Morgan Sound Incorporated in the amount of $115,516.47 and authorize the mayor to execute the contract, and I did that in one breath.
Second.
All right. There's been a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, matter passed unanimously. Item C, Councilmember Duclos.
I move to award the Performing Arts and Event Center production lighting equipment contract to Pacific Northwest Theater Associates Incorporated in the amount of $79,215.43 and authorize the mayor to execute the contract.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, matter passes unanimously. All right. All right, thank you, Teresa. Got a great presentation.
Thank
And,
you.
All right, yes. All right, now we've got Ryan Call, item D, proposed settlement of Juventina Martinez claim.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and Council. I am here seeking approval of a negotiated settlement for the Justina Martinez claim in the amount of $35,000. As you may recall from previous briefings, this stems from an accident between one of our motorcycle officers and Ms. Martinez. The officer was injured. Thankfully, he is now fully recovered and back on duty. But as part of the incident, Ms. Martinez's vehicle was substantially damaged, and she did suffer some injuries herself. Like all matters that have some potential legal exposure to the city, we evaluated the matter and decided also with outside counsel negotiating this settlement that this is by far the most cost-effective way to handle this, this claim. So it is already negotiated. Ms. Martinez has agreed to this number, and we're asking for approval tonight.
Yeah, Council, you may recall this was a situation with the motorcycle officer that came out in front of him, and he was airborne, and he actually ended up resulting in a compound fracture to his leg. We're very, very fortunate that not only is he doing well, he's back in the force and doing well, but this sounds like well, I'll let you guys decide. Is there Deputy Mayor Burbidge, you have a motion?
I do, thank you. I move approval of the settlement of the Martinez claim as proposed.
Second.
All right, there's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Matter passed unanimously. Thank you, Ryan. Okay, ordinances, first reading, Council Bill 725, the Zayo Franchise Ordinance Agreement. First, we'll have a staff report from Thomas Fickner, our IT manager, and then we'll turn this over to the city clerk. Thomas.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Before you is a amendment to the Zayo group franchise, and what it is basically in 2013, we moved forward and approved a franchise to allow Zayo a non-exclusive right of, or non-exclusive grant to occupy the rights of way for fiber optic installation. And what is before you is an amendment to that franchise, which will allow them to request a variance that will allow them to go aerial where existing aerial infrastructure is. So they will not be able to install new poles anywhere in the city, but they will be able to install cable on poles that already exist. So it's basically just allowing and adding a piece, an exact sentence in the section 5.1 under location that says the facilities permitted by this franchise shall be installed underground except as approved per the variance procedures established in section 11.05.080 of the Federal Way Revised Code, FWRC. So the matter before, or the matter is, should council approve that variance or the amendment or not?
Okay. Any questions, council, for Thomas? Great job. You and your staff just do a phenomenal job. I frankly don't know how you do it with it, especially now you're getting that building all wired up and all the things you do with the police department. You guys do a phenomenal job.
All right. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate
all
it.
right. All right. So, council, one more time. All right. Would the city clerk please read the ordinance title?
Council Bill 725, Zayo Franchise Ordinance Amendment, an ordinance of the City of Federal Way, Washington, amending the non-exclusive franchise granted to Zayo Group LLC to occupy rights of way for the City of Federal Way, Washington, within the specified franchise area for the purposes of installing fiber optic network within and throughout the City of Federal Way.
All right. Councilmember Duclos, do you have a motion?
Yes, I move to forward the proposed ordinance to the June 20th, 2017 council meeting for second reading and enactment.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, there's been a motion and a second. All those in, is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, matter passes. All right, now we're on to second readings, and we've had one item, item B, Council Bill 724, amendment and adoption of NFPA 130, Standard for Fixed Guideway Transit and Passenger Rail Systems, current edition. Would the city clerk please read the ordinance title again?
Council Bill 724, amendment and adoption of NFPA 130 Standard for Fixed Guideway Transit and Passenger Rail Systems, current edition. An ordinance of the City of Federal, Washington relating to construction standards for fixed guideway transit and passenger rail systems and adding new section to Chapter 13.31 Federal Revised Code.
All right, Councilmember Selski.
I move approval of the proposed ordinance.
Second.
All right, there's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, matter passes unanimously. All right, now we're on to council reports. Councilmember Duclos.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Saturday, I saw the mayor and Councilmember Moore and a few other people over at the Relay for Life. I was a little disappointed in the attendance. It seemed down from what it has been in the past. I hope it's not wearing out its significance or importance. I had the opportunity to speak as a survivor of cancer in my 4th year, and then do the walk. And then later that night, I went back and did another walk, just to show my appreciation for all of the support services I had, my caregiver, as well as the people in the medical field that took care of me and got rid of that ugly scourge that we have. And maybe, hopefully, someday we will completely rid cancer from attacking human beings. But we did let everybody know that there is hope. The other thing I wanted to talk, a couple of things.
Councilmember Duclos, you're 4 years now. Four years.
I'm in my 4th year, and thank you. It's not over yet. I gotta go one more year before they say it's done.
And your speech was awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you very
Very
much. I
powerful.
appreciate that. Also, I've been working with our legislators down in Olympia on the Sound Transit issue with the car tabs. And they are really working hard to try and do something and make that much fairer for us. The problem with Sound Transit is it doesn't have an elected board. It appoints its board members, and of course they appoint people who are going to go along with what the staff want to do. And they don't reflect on what it is that it's going to cost us. We pay a lot in car tabs already, and I do resent the fact that sometimes it's just because I drive a car, I have to pay for somebody to take a bus or take a train. Let them pay their fair share. So I just wanted to let you know that keep working on it. Keep calling your legislators down in Olympia, because they really are trying to work on this. And I know that there was a bill in the House and one in the Senate, and I'm not sure if they've reconciled those or not, because they're fighting over who wants to get credit for it. And I just, both of you, sign everything and let everybody get credit for it. Also remind you that there are the debates for candidates that are running for office, and it's going to be July 12th at the Twin Lakes Country Club at 6 p.m., so put that on your schedule. Go and be prepared to ask questions of people so you get to know who they are, and what they stand for. And I also would like to congratulate Todd Beamer for their state title in soccer in the 4A state championship games. And I think that's all for me tonight. Thank you all.
Very good. Actually, Stephanie, we need to have them come to the next council meeting. Let's reach out. Thank you. Yeah, great comment. We had when we had Federal High School. We need to reach out to them and have them come to the next meeting. Yeah, it was a great thing for this community. All right, I'm sorry, Councilmember Moore.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. Life is an incredible thing. There's so much to it and so many opportunities and ups and downs and everything all about it. The older I become, the more I become fascinated at the things that come your way. This past week, I had the opportunity to partner up with Sherry Edwards on a national issue. A Decatur High School student, class of 2017, got deported 2 weeks before graduation. That's a sad thing. The student was top 10% of his class. He was a student mentor. He was in leadership. He was well respected. He was an athlete. He is an everyday American, if you will. And this issue speaks volumes to me because we are in a city with 119 plus languages and dialects. We have people that come here to this country to grab a hold of the American dream. And as a person that has lived that, as a person who was adopted, who became a citizen, I am living that American dream. And I want to thank my colleagues and the mayor for passing, I believe was the resolution, for this city to be a welcoming city. And, the sad part, and this is just my personal opinion, I don't know if that's enough, but it's a statement, and I appreciate that. And I appreciate the fact that this city isn't becoming silent on this. And, I've learned a lot in the process of working with Sherry, and I want to thank her for her leadership. Truly, it is amazing. If you want to see a person move 100 miles an hour, just talk to Sherry. That's all I got to say. But I also want to take the time to thank Senator Senator Maria Cantwell office. I know she did an extraordinary job really just partnering up with us and getting down to the ground level and communicating with the border patrols of what was happening. And I can tell you that at the end of the day, we need to work on our systems. The fact that one system was saying another and another system saying something else, that is a sad reality. And so I also want to thank Representative Christine Reeves. I also want to thank Representative Mike Pellicciati for their ability to stay in contact and be ready to do whatever it took to help us. And also, there's a lot of people I want to thank, and of course I know the mayor was kept in the loop, and I want to thank Tammy Campbell, Dr. Tammy Campbell, for her ability to stay on top of this issue. There are a lot, I'm afraid to say that there's going to be a lot more cases like that, and I don't want to get into too much, but there's got to be a better way we can go about doing this for our students that are in the top 10% of their class. And so moving forward, I also had the chance, I'm actually really excited, and I'm really excited that for the past several months I've been talking to you about the Federal Way Community Caregivers and the fact that the Monday night suppers were scheduled to be closed because of the new church taking over Steel Lake Presbyterian Church. And easily, just yesterday, 73 people were being fed, which is unusual at this time. And I know that the highest number I've heard was 90 people. So there's a clear need. I want to publicly thank Pastor Casey Treats. He is now offered his church to take over the Monday night suppers. And to me, that's a solution. And that continues feeding our homeless and people of poverty. And that is a really critical needed service. I've been there, I've done it, and I've seen it, and I know that it's a need. And so, like I say, I end with life. I'm thankful that I had an opportunity to work alongside many people to make those into reality, especially the Federal Way Community Caregivers. I'm thankful that I had the opportunity to learn and advocate and do what I can to try and save the student that was deported. So there's a long road ahead of us, but I'm optimistic that there'll be it'll be good things that are going to happen on the road. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Kopeng.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Moore, thank you for your advocacy on the part of the Korean student who ended up being deported at the border because of a misunderstanding on his papers. But I wanted to just say that I appreciate the fact that we have a community that really strives to be connected. I think that the culture of connectedness has been in place for years, and it shows up in so many different ways. And certainly the efforts of Councilmember Moore and Sherry is one more demonstration of that. The class of the AL class of 2017 just put on an event for the Federal Way Community Connections, which used to be what was it? The Federal Way City Vision. Yes. So anyway, and again, they're an organization that really has worked hard to connect the different nonprofits and service groups that are working so hard to make our city the success it is. And certainly appreciate the work of AL class. They will, I'm sure, say that they are the best class ever, but I want to commend them for a great event today. Definitely appreciated seeing so many people from the community involved. I wanted to call into account one particular group, though, and that's the Youth Action Team. The Youth Action Team is a group that is really working very hard to engage at-risk kids in the community and make sure that they have the connections they need to create a successful life for themselves. And this actually ends up being part of probation in some cases for them. But again, it's a group that was birthed out of a passion to create a solution. And I know one of the members, actually two of the members of the Youth Action Team were part of our Violence Prevention Coalition Steering Committee. And they gave a report that, again, stresses the importance of community connectedness. When we look at the drug issue that came up today, again, community connectedness is the key, I think, to addressing that issue. So again, I think it's so important for us as a community to understand the need for connection and to remain connected as much as we can and understand. I think about the Diversity Commission today being appointed. Again, we celebrate diversity here in Federal Way because we understand we all are different. And we respect the perspectives that come from culture and from experience. And the final thing I want to say is I had the pleasure to go to reception at the Japanese consul to celebrate Hachinohe being in Federal Way. It was actually up in Seattle, and that was actually a pretty amazing cultural event. But again, I look at our city as being a city that wants to be connected, not only within itself, but outside of our borders as well. And our work with the Sister City program, the mayor's recent work with the South King County cities and police chiefs, having a meeting here. Again, it's all about us being connected. And so I just encourage every one of you in the community to remain connected. If you're not connected, let's find a way to get you connected. But again, sometimes the first step comes from you. But again, there is a welcoming community of people that want to serve their fellow citizens. And the connectedness really is part of our culture. So I hope that you will participate if you have not. Thank you.
All right. Councilmember Honda.
Thank you. Last Friday, Deputy Mayor Burbidge and I were here when the Japanese students were here visiting City Hall. It was last Friday, I believe. And it was really fun to watch them. They got here early, and we're sitting up here. They had appointed one of their students as the mayor, and he was doing a great job. They were visiting this area and then going down to Oregon to thank Oregon for what they did with their piece of their gate from their structure that was damaged during the earthquake. And then I was also here with the mayor and his community members. I'd like to thank Mark Freitas. He has kept our sister cities in front of us. And it is the 25th year coming up. It would be great if we could do something with our sister city over there in Japan. But Mark Freitas is, thank goodness that he has been involved since the very beginning, and he continues to be involved today with that. I attended the Memorial Day program in Milton at their Veterans Memorial. It was a VFW Post 11401 of 5 Milton and Edgewood that put that on. This is our 10-year anniversary of having their Veterans Memorial, and that was a memorial that took many, many years to build and to fund. It's beautiful. They continue to add bricks, so if you have a veteran, you can call the VFW post and get a brick put into the wall. And if you are not a veteran and you want to support the VFW, you can have a brick on the pathway. So I would encourage you to contact them. The Homeless Mothers and Children's Initiative is moving forward, and I wanted to talk a little bit about this since it's been in the press lately about how many homeless children we have here in Federal Way. Several years ago, I was at a Seroptimus meeting in Renton, and the Seroptimus Club of Renton talked about working with the Renton City Council and providing shelter for children and mothers. And at that point, I thought, you know, why can't we? We had Reach Out had started here, and I had been told by the Reach Out providers that we could not house mothers and children, and I couldn't understand how they could do that in Renton, but we couldn't do it here. And my husband's grandmother, we called her Hibachan. She was the most amazing woman I've ever met, and she used to tell us that you can have vision without action is a daydream. Action without vision is a nightmare. It's a Japanese proverb that she used to say to us. And my vision at the time was that we work with Reach Out and we somehow provide shelter for women and children, just as we provide shelter through Reach Out for men and women. Well, we're moving forward. We're having meetings. There's another meeting tomorrow. It's not something that's going to be put on the shelf. It's going to happen. There's another group in Federal Way that is also working on sheltering people. And I believe between the two groups that there will be shelter, and there'll be more shelter for those of our citizens who are homeless and looking for a place to go. Flag Day is Saturday. Flag Day is a program sponsored by the Seroptimus Club of Federal Way and our King County Council member. And as the president of Seroptimus, I'd like to invite everyone to attend. It is at the King County Weyerhaeuser Aquatic Center. Starts at 9:30 on Saturday, rain or shine. We have tents or tarps, so if you come and it's raining a little bit, you'll stay dry. And if you get cold, you can go in the building and warm up and come back. We are honoring those who provide service to others. We have a nurse who is 93 years old. She works at Tacoma General Hospital. She'll be honored. We're honoring police officers who also have a military service. And we're honoring Army Captain Selsky for his service as in the military. The chaplain who will be part of the program is the fire department's chaplain, Julie Westfall. And I thought that would be special to have someone that we haven't had before and someone who works with those service providers. The Lions Club will be there with our hot dogs, and I would encourage you to purchase a hot dog from the Lions Club. Flags have been donated by the Woodman's Group, and this is something that the Seroptimus Club has done for many, many years, and I would encourage you to come, rain or shine. It has rained before, but it's always a beautiful program and very meaningful. And looking ahead, the Kiwanis Club does a salmon bake. It's always the fourth Friday in July, which this year is July 28th. It's at Steel Lake. It's our 61st year, and this year I am co-chairman of it. Last year we had a record-breaking amount of people that we served. We served over 900. Well, I made the silly statement that this year we were going to serve 1,000. So I really need your help. I need you to come on July 28th, have a salmon dinner. It's $20 for seniors and $23 at the gate, but if you pre-buy a ticket, it's $20 for you too. It's a wonderful salmon dinner. There'll be an auction, there'll be music. It is really one of our longest events here in Federal Way that we've had, and it's fun. And I will tell you that it doesn't rain during the salmon bake. Last year it sprinkled up until 4 o'clock, and at 4 o'clock it stopped. The sun came out. It was awesome. So please come, because I really need your help, because I have to get at least 1,000 tickets sold. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Selski.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Farrell. That sounds a real challenge we need to meet.
Yes.
So I agree with you. So being a graduate of Federal Way High School, I'm always interested in our scholastic sports in the city, and Councilmember Duclos stole my thunder by announcing the Todd Beamer High School state champion, 4A state champion soccer team for the boys. And they went 19 wins, 1 loss, and 1 tie. That's almost a perfect record. So what a great job, and what a great thing for our city to have another state champion. It seems like we have state champions in high school sports every year in one way or another. But it wasn't only Todd Beamer High School that took a state championship. Actually, a Decatur High School student, Kemuel Santana, was a state champion at track and field, and he actually won the state championship in the 200 meter. He took the bronze medal in the 400 meter, and he was also 4th place for the 100 meter. What's really interesting about this young man, he really overcame some serious injuries early in the season, working with his coaches and his trainers, and recovered from that all the way to becoming a state champion, which is just tremendous. So congratulations to him and his family as well. And then Federal Way High School, also in the state championship, had Kaylin Hyde, who is the state champion in the discus and silver medal in the shot put. So we had some great success this year, which is really nice to see for our scholastic sports. So the mayor mentioned about the Marine Hills Swim and Tennis Club ceremony on Saturday, and the mayor and a couple of us went to that event. First time I've been to it, and I thought that was tremendous. What a great community event that is. I mean, it just show a lot of support from the community of Marine Hills, and actually beyond. But what really impressed me, and as I talked to some of the board members, is this theme that I like to talk about, is parental involvement in getting active with their kids and with the community, and working to help promote sports like this or activities like this, which of course is great for our kids and keeping them on the right path. But they were talking about swim meets, and these different clubs hold the meets. In this particular club, there are 60 volunteers who actually come together to put on a swimming meet, and it's a pretty big event, as I come to know. But volunteers in terms of coaching and reffing and just just being on the board, help, support, just all this kind of thing, and that's tremendous. And I just I want to commend the parents who are involved in this, and just, I guess, encourage all parents to really get involved in kids' sports, because it's a great way to keep them going in the right direction. And then it was also mentioned about Flag Day. That coming up this Saturday is really one of my favorite events of the year in the city, because you see all services represented. There are a lot of people who go to this, and actually the anthem for each service is played, so every service veteran gets to stand up when their particular anthem is played. And so it's just a great event. And Councilmember Honda mentioned my son David, who's an active duty captain, had 2 deployments to Iraq and 1 to Afghanistan, and as a graduate of Federal Way High School is going to talk about his experience with the flag, starting as a youth in the Federal Way school system all the way through his deployments. So he's excited about that, and I'm excited to hear what he has to say, because I don't know what he's going to say. So, and that's my report. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Sepidus.
Thank you, Mayor. I was actually thinking in the same line as Councilmember Marco Pang around our community, the camaraderie and the friendship, and even on Saturday we have more than 4 events going on all at once, or throughout the day, and it's just to bring the community together for service and for fundraising and all the other activities that we embarked on. So I'm also proud that I'm part of this community because there is community-ness. Like everyone stated, I also went to a lot of the events that were going on in our city. One thing I do want to talk about is the report that just came out from All Homes, the one-night count, which is now called Count Us In. And so what really struck me is, by the way, in 2017, they changed the methodology of counting the homeless. And there were over 11,000 people that they found who were homeless. Some were sheltered either in shelter and transitional housing, others were on the street in tents or whatever. And a lot of times, and we heard that today, people do blame homelessness on the individuals that are homeless when we don't understand the cause of homelessness. And from the report, there was 28%, which is a high number, that was around mental illness and drug and alcohol. The rest were really reasons that are compelling that could happen to anyone in our community. So anywhere from losing your job, which was a higher percentage at 30%, to medical bills that you can't afford. It's either your medical bill or your rent. And in my line of work, people who even have Section 8 vouchers cannot find housing, therefore they end up losing their voucher. So there are a lot of reasons why people are homeless, and I hope that we understand that and we handle that with compassion. And I do appreciate the initiative that Susan and Sherry are working on, women and children, because children are impacted by this. And sometimes, it's just how it is. And it's sad when we lump everyone and say they choose to be there. And so I just want to caution our community, since we're talking about community support and compassion, I believe this is something that we also need to add to that and try to find. We are doing our best, and I appreciate what we're doing, but I believe there's more we can do as a community. So I'm hoping that Federal Way would be a community that is trying to support the homeless population. So with that, I end my report. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Deputy Mayor Burbridge.
Thank you very much. It's amazing how many activities take place in our city, our community. And I know our council members and our mayor, we all do our best to attend as many as possible, but there's always a range of events offered. And but I'm hearing some themes, certainly the need for connecting and the obvious compassion within our community, the response that we find happens when needs are expressed of all kinds. And I was able to attend along with some other council members. Councilmember Honda was there, and Councilmember Selsky, and Councilmember Kopang, a Realtors 23rd Annual Housing Issues Briefing, and it was held in Bellevue at the Maidenbauer Center. It was quite interesting. There was a panel. Two of the four members of the panel have a history in Federal Way, interestingly, specifically with Weyerhaeuser Company. Both of them had worked there. Patricia Akiyama was the government relations person at the time when I was first on the city council. And then Peter Orser was the head of Quadrant and Weyerhaeuser Real Estate. And they're continuing in the housing field in various ways. And they and the others on the panel had some very interesting descriptions of the housing challenges that this region faces with the intense growth and the needs at the various income levels, the jobs housing balance challenges. And I found some very interesting suggestions and examples shared with us that I'll be eager to share with other council members and with staff and the communities, and to see which might apply to our challenges in our city, our community. Thank you.
All right. And with that, we are adjourned. Great meeting, everyone.